Irish Demon exposed again. Is his career over? New allegations have emerged against YouTuber Irish Demon since our last report, this time implicating Demon in collecting and sharing nude photos of fans and at least one prominent Discord member. These allegations are not new. Various screen captures aren't emerging in a vacuum, and there had always been unfounded rumors that overzealous fans had shared such photos with Demon over the years, though there hadn't been the added bonus that he was distributing said photos. As it stands now, it's among the more outrageous things coming about as Demon is apparently falling from grace, the last of the so-called Big Three, the others being Kate Peter of the Masshole Troll Mafia and Team Skeptic, who have seen their channels either face significant reduction or abandonment in the past 3 years. Shell-shocked fans of Demon are now asking what is left out there, what else he was up to in secret or with knowledge of his insiders and confidants. We are neither. The closest our human helper Jim Finch had ever been to being an insider was the 3 days Demon wooed him to appear on Demon's show during the fall of the Welsh news network. A lot of enticing things were presented and supposedly put in place, and nothing actually happened as Demon went radio silent literally as the show ended, not even sticking around long enough for a post-show recap or thank you for the appearance. No harm done. Jim moved forward, and the mess of a network you see before you is what came out of the fall of the Welsh news network. For our part, we didn't keep up with Demon and his fights with Daniel Jones or Coded Friend 001, his love life and his alleged affairs. Jones was dispatched pretty easily, and the ongoing fight with Coded was a little too pro-wrestling for our tastes, and frankly, even by WWE logic, their fights and friendship and whatever was too much to follow. We stayed away from whatever the fight was. We moved on with our lives. Last fall, we received the same tip that a lot of people did, that there was going to be a hack of a prominent YouTube channel, and the rumor mill filled in that Demon was somehow going to be involved in the hack, as it would go down as one of his pranks. We didn't run the story, though we mentioned it here and there, because there was no proof that a hack was going to happen, and frankly, we didn't put a lot into checking it out as it was highly suspicious, and we believed Demon would never do such a thing until the day the hack happened. In the aftermath, Demon did a live stream where he regaled in his history of pranks involving the subject of the hack. But he stopped himself from admitting the hack. Walking away from that live stream, viewers were left 99.5% of the way there, believing he was responsible for it, but without absolute proof or more evidence, there wasn't a story there. The story then disappeared once the subject of the hack started to threaten police action, or worse, a YouTube investigation. Current rumor is the subject of the hack did it to himself in a desperate attempt to revive his channel. The takedown by YouTube was to spark his fans to support him in his move to another service, which didn't happen, and there's enough evidence to point to it as the official take on what happened. But we've always wondered that what if, as the evidence was there to support the scenario, and Demon has now proven the depths he would, allegedly, go to expose an enemy. As things stand now, the big question, of course, is what we do in the aftermath of all the bombshells. With all the grubby, awful, reprehensible things that are coming out, what do we do with the case of Irish Demon? Editorially, we'll report on newsworthy stories. As far as fandom, Demon needs to address the allegations made against him. Right now, a lot of his friends and major portions of his fandom have walked away from him. His response will determine his future and if his channel survives. Demon has reportedly deleted his Discord server. For now, all we can do is watch, report the news, and wait. The ball is in his court. Daniel Jones of WNN blames Irish Demon for self-exile. In a bizarre livestream aired on the WNN, formerly the Welsh News Network, YouTube channel, WNN owner and operator Daniel Jones issued a statement blaming fear of harassment by YouTuber Irish Demon as the reason why he took up self-imposed exile from YouTube and Discord since May of 2024. Jones started the broadcast by stating that he wasn't there to badmouth his former co-hosts and immediately apologized for lying about his home address during the time he ran the then Welsh News Network. He stated that he had issues trusting anyone and said that he should have trusted more people, but ultimately was glad that he did not as it prevented YouTuber Irish Demon from showing up at his actual house. Demon, along with former WNN personality Shuggy, attempted to confront Jones at his home address last year, but were unsuccessful at reaching Jones at the time. Jones, parroting previous claims, said that the house that the men arrived at was not his home, but an address he spent a good amount of time at. Jones had previously told his WNN co-host that the address was his brother's house, a brother who would not look kindly on those who showed up to confront Jones. The WNN owner then thanked a YouTube personality for confirming that the Facebook account using the name Shirley Boland was Irish Demon in disguise. Jones then blamed his exile on the actions of Irish Demon, showing multiple messages from Boland, including one supposedly sent to a loved one of Jones that read, "Yeah, he has one son and one daughter. I can't stress enough that absolutely nobody is implicating Redacted in any of this. Just wanted to reach out because we were concerned for her as this man is potentially dangerous. He has a history of aggression towards women according to other ex-girlfriends." Jones was unclear about what he would do about the account now that he had proof that it was owned by Irish Demon. After privately threatening to physically assault Demon on at least one occasion to his former co-hosts before the breakup of WNN, Jones portrayed himself as a victim of Demon's manipulation and implied that he was in fear of Demon's actions. The YouTuber also claimed that the brother that Demon extensively interviewed in May was not in fact his brother. He said that he never lived with the man as brothers and did not consider him a brother. Bizarrely, he claimed that his own fall of grace was done without a shred of evidence, and said that his WNN co-hosts and the public were fully aware of his conviction for defrauding a food bank. He implied that he had told the truth to his colleagues and his listeners, and that he had openly discussed the situation on multiple non-WNN live streams. While partially true, Jones omitted the added information that accompanied said discussion, as he had always claimed that he was exonerated upon appeal of the conviction and that the police officers who brought charges against him were later punished for their actions. Jones' claims of falling from grace without evidence also failed to mention that on at least one occasion, Jones refused to reveal the name of the animal shelter he was raising funds for as he was afraid that the animal shelter would receive criticism from his enemies. He also failed to address accusations of stolen valor and accusations of the misappropriation of funds collected in the name of a cancer victim. Jones also failed to address accusations that he catfished his listeners, friends, and coworkers for nearly 2 years with stories of immense wealth, promises of employment, and his own employment by the British government. Contrary to the statement by Jones that he has been in exile, Jones has been an active participant on live streams run by former advisory Miss Mandy in recent months, taking part in reaction panels. When confronted with accusations against him during his participation on the panels, Jones has signed off of the panels without addressing the controversy. Jones allowed feedback from his audience, after claiming he could not see the live stream side chat through the Stream Elements software, requiring a donation from his viewers to ask him a question during the brief broadcast. No one in the audience was acknowledged as using the service during the live stream. The YouTuber ended the live stream by stating that he may return to live streaming after his current holiday. The WNN broadcast peaked at 39 live viewers and has been viewed 131 times as a press time. Disclaimer: Really Cool News and the Auditing Insanity newscast are owned and operated by Jim Finch, who was once a cast member of the Welsh News Network. Really Cool News and Auditing Insanity have no current affiliation with WNN or Daniel Jones.
De Castro at odds with foreign state nationals. Aging pitch man Jose Chile de Castro livestreamed Saturday and Sunday with forgettable streams focused on pushing his products and repeating catchphrases in streams that would ultimately be known more for the splotch of makeup on his nose rather than anything he actually said during the broadcasts. De Castro has been described by former business partner Colin Project Constitution Campbell as wearing a large amount of makeup to cover up imperfections on his face and the wrath of age and time. For the past few live streams, De Castro has had a large circular splotch of makeup or some sort of white powder that fans have speculated would normally go on the tip of his nose, but he appears to have misapplied it. The splotch leaving him with an unusual mark for fans to focus on as De Castro's actual content has grown more and more repetitive as he's apparently run out of things to say to his audience. The YouTuber is now also wearing a baseball cap on most broadcasts, with speculation that his sudden interest in wearing baseball caps is to cover up his rapidly receding hairline, as it appears that the previous hair care and hair restoration products that he may have used are now no longer affordable. As far as the content of the live streams themselves, Saturday's live stream focused on an interview with a fan who was arrested in Texas on New Year's Eve for public intoxication. DeCastro claimed that the man had an open and shut case in the state to defeat the charges and to get the statutes that allowed his arrest to be overturned. During the conversation, DeCastro said that it has been hard to be nice to police while interacting with them and that it sucked he had to do it. Expounding further, he told his fans that they needed to fake being nice to police as they must show to the judges from the body cam video on scene that they were cooperative with the police if they wanted any hope to get off from the charges. DeCastro also made the strange statement that he loves marijuana but has stopped using it as much as he was afraid that it would show up in a blood or urine test. He was unclear as to why such testing was worrisome and quickly dropped the topic. Sunday's live stream put DeCastro in the unenviable position of defending driver's licenses and the need for registration of vehicles that put him at odds with most of his audience. DeCastro featured a video of a female member of the foreign state national movement get pulled over by police for failing to have a properly registered vehicle. While DeCastro admitted that driver's licenses are scams, everyone must have a license, proof of insurance and proof of registration of their vehicles. In a weird scenario, DeCastro defended the practice of requiring driver's licenses as his trifold business is built upon compliant traffic stops that start with the handing of a driver's lawful information to the police. DeCastro urged his viewers to invest in his $25 trifolds, now with $11 shipping and handling, instead of the foreign state national movement as his program was better suited to prevent arrest in the event of a pullover. He then reminded his fans that he was brought back the special where his users would get digital copies of every product on his website with any purchase.
Floyd Wallace rage quits love search in Rio de Janeiro. The man who has been nicknamed as Scammer Floyd Wallace returned to live streaming from the streets of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, on Monday, accompanied by a woman who he called just a friend, and complaining about the continued disrespect from his audience, who did not appreciate his work. Wallace went live during the mid-afternoon on Monday, initially complaining that he thought himself too ugly to get women in Rio de Janeiro. He said that his Tinder matches were empty from the city, other than a handful of boy girls that he had no interest in. His attractiveness was enhanced by the young-looking woman he was accompanied by, who walked the streets at his side throughout the stream. The woman, appearing in her mid to late teens, stood by as Wallace approached women and ultimately claimed to get telephone numbers from 4 different women during the broadcast. The woman was both an enhancement to Wallace and a distraction, with Wallace stating that while the woman was just a friend, he would never invest time in friendship with a woman unless sex was involved. Wallace spent a great deal of time arguing with the woman, who apparently did not speak English, over their choice of dinner destinations. While the woman suggested various local places, Wallace refused to eat at the establishments and insisted on eating at either McDonald's or Taco Bell while on the livestream. The woman also appeared angry when Wallace refused to buy her a cell phone case, with Wallace verbally chastising her, stating that if she didn't like his actions, she could leave. Even when a viewer directly sent Wallace money on Cash App to buy the woman the cell phone case, Wallace refused to do so, stating that he would buy her the case later. Wallace's dates seem to imply that his previous statements of bribing women with promises of merchandise or grocery purchases in exchange for predate sex. She became more and more agitated with him as he refused to listen to her opinion on where they should eat and would not agree to his demand to eat at McDonald's. His agitation growing, Wallace began to half-answer the questions he received via Super Chat, admitting that he has only smashed 2 women since being in Brazil, while threatening Snow Travels with a ban for super chatting that he should go back to the United States. Wallace ended his stream after calling his audience disrespectful and becoming frustrated at the lack of appreciation for his showing the culture of Brazil. His viewers then pointed out that walking around outside with the primary view of the sidewalk was hardly showing off culture, which angered him further, and he ended the stream. The YouTuber has threatened to end further culture shares in the future. It is unclear when he'll stream again. Is the angry vet the biggest loser in crowdsource market? The crowdsourcing market rallied on Saturday, with several significant signs of life after a day of goose eggs, when the gooses returned to scare away what little activity had remained for the weekend. Sean Paul, Long Island Audit, Reyes took Saturday with a $50 donation, followed by our own ongoing expenses campaign with a $25 donation. Liberty Troll took in a $5 donation to round out Saturday, and that was it for the weekend. The geese stayed over from Sunday to Monday as no donations were observed for any of the campaigns that we cover for either day. Strangely, with brewing controversy at the start of the week, Kevin, the Angry Vet, Soper's recent announcement of dueling fundraising efforts in order to either support his haircut or deny his haircut in the name of his nonprofit organization. Soper is seeking to support twin campaigns, with the winning campaign determining what he does with his hair and all proceeds going to his nonprofit organization. For every $1,000 donated to the Cut His Hair category, he'll cut an inch of his hair off. For every $1,000 donated to the Don't Cut Your Hair category, he won't cut his hair. The campaign began on January 12, 2025, and is scheduled to end on February 14, 2025, with a live donation tally day event on his YouTube channel. His new campaign has drawn criticism from both sides of the First Amendment auditing community, with everyone from Beezy Watchdog to Frauditor Troll calling out Soper's alleged fraudulent activities and casting doubt on the legitimacy of his new campaign. It remains to be seen how much hair Soper will be forced to cut at the end of his campaign, and more importantly, how much money will actually go to the veterans he claims to support.
Journalism is not free. Both ReallyCoolSite.org's daily newspaper and our daily newscasts are funded by your continuing donations and what we make from our YouTube AdSense revenue each month. If you'd like to contribute to help us keep the lights on, eating, keeping the cats fed, and writing new stories to feature on both the newspaper and newscast each day, we do have a GoFundMe set up at the address on screen right now. If you can't afford to contribute, please watch the advertisements on our videos, like, share, subscribe, and comment. You can help by doing next to nothing, and we thank you in advance for pitching in.
The Angry Vet goes members only to end criticism. Kevin, the Angry Vet, Soper went live on Tuesday to announce immediate changes to his YouTube channel as he had removed all of his live streams and made it clear he intended to put all new live streams behind a paywall in order to prevent his enemies from using them without paying for them. Soper said he may rename himself to the Happy Vet after pulling all of his videos and live streams, claiming he did so because he was putting aside the pettiness and would be removing any video that used name calling or disparaged other YouTube creators. He also made it clear that he was no longer interested in letting fake patriots distribute his content without his permission or discuss his nonprofit organization. Directly addressing those worried about his loss of revenue, Soper scoffed and said that he made under $150 a month from YouTube and it was not his primary source of revenue. Soper went further and denounced anyone who would set up a fake GoFundMe account on behalf of anyone else. He said that there were too many garbage people in the world who would use deception to make money off of others' plight. Addressing his Operation Smokeout, where he bad-mouthed over a dozen YouTube creators to see what their reactions would be, he said he was pleased with the results. He said that he was able to purge his moderators of anyone with affiliations to people who would do him harm. As of Wednesday morning, Soper had held true to his promise as the only live stream that remained was his announcement video. Strangely, all of his produced videos were still free content, including his much-awaited arrest video from an incident in Rock Hill, South Carolina, last year. That video featured a highly edited account of what happened between Soper and police, featuring multiple jump and time cuts. The supposed attack on Soper was featured in his video as Soper fell to the ground while he was being apprehended. It was hardly the gang-style beating Soper had advertised, and the production raised questions about the overall incident and Soper's claims of extensive head injuries. Soper also did not address his growing controversy over his dueling haircut crowdsourcing campaigns. The Angry Vet is supposedly raising money to go towards cutting his hair and keeping it the same length, but never made it clear where those who wanted to contribute should contribute. His current GoFundMe campaign has seen no new donations since the start of the newest goal. Likewise, his GiveSendGo account has had one donation without a clearly established purpose. If Soper live streams again, we will not be covering it unless Soper revises his decision to make his live streams members only. What exactly is Craig Henry fundraising for? The market was again dead on Tuesday, the third day in a row with goose eggs again dominating the market. The lack of donations continued, as it was noted that Craig Henry has already filed his appeal of felony stalking and misdemeanor harassment charges out of Vermilion County, Indiana. A convicted felon filing an appeal of his charges wouldn't be all that important except for the fact that Henry is still claiming he needs $18,000 in donations to file his appeal and to hire an attorney to handle his appeal. Henry's mycase.in.gov file shows that he filed his appeal on January 3, 2025, and is represented by attorney K. A. Beeler. Beeler is a court-appointed attorney who was apparently appointed by the court to handle the appeal as part of the sentencing process back on December 20, 2024. The YouTuber has appealed multiple times via verbal addresses from jail since that time that he needed to raise the $18,000 for his appeal and implied that he would not be able to go forward without the money. Curiously, around the time of the appointment of the public defender, Henry stopped promoting his GoFundMe devoted to his appeal and started promoting his Support Craig's Work fund. That fund has taken in over $1,300 since the start of the year based on the premise that all funding was going towards hiring a lawyer to handle Henry's appeal. Henry is currently in jail after being convicted of the charges. He is also awaiting 3 other sets of charges that are moving towards trials this year.
Journalism is not free. Both ReallyCoolSite.org's daily newspaper and our daily newscasts are funded by your continuing donations and what we make from our YouTube AdSense revenue each month. If you'd like to contribute to help us keep the lights on, eating, keeping the cats fed, and writing new stories to feature on both the newspaper and newscast each day, we do have a GoFundMe set up at the address on screen right now. If you can't afford to contribute, please watch the advertisements on our videos, like, share, subscribe, and comment. You can help by doing next to nothing, and we thank you in advance for pitching in.
Attorney C.J. Grisham detained in Fort Worth. Attorney to First Amendment auditing community superstar C.J. Grisham was briefly detained in Tarrant County, Texas, on Tuesday as questions about his concealed carry weapon prevented him from re-entering the first session of the Tarrant County Commissioner's Court of the year. The Tarrant County Commissioner's Court was scheduled to discuss a recent increase of deaths of inmates at the Tarrant County Jail since 2017, including 9 deaths in 2024. Attorney Grisham and First Amendment Auditor Manuel Mata were among protesters who wanted answers from the commission Tuesday night. Mata would eventually be arrested for filming an argument in the courtroom without permission to record and arguing with police that would lead to disorderly conduct charges. The attorney was detained as he stepped out of the courtroom to use the bathroom during a brief intermission before the public feedback portion of the meeting. According to Grisham, on the way back into the courtroom, he exchanged greetings with a police officer he knew, who asked if he was carrying a weapon. Grisham responded to the officer in the affirmative, claiming he had a right under federal law to conceal carry within the Texas courthouse from his status as he served as a law enforcement officer in the military. The men began to argue, and Grisham was briefly detained by police, who ultimately determined that they were not going to charge him with a crime. A third person was detained and arrested at the event. However, circumstances leading to their arrest and what they were charged with have not been released as of press time. Returning to his car and live streaming, Grisham said that he would be filing a federal lawsuit against Tarrant County by the end of the day. He said that the signs prohibiting weapons in the building were not valid according to federal regulations, and he had protected status as a veteran to conceal carry as he pleased. Grisham is famous for defending Jack, Texas sheepdog, Miller from possession of CP charges last year and was the initial lawyer for Carolyn Carolina and Fort Worth, Rodriguez last year, after she got into an altercation with a police officer that left her hospitalized in Fort Worth. There is no indication on Grisham's YouTube page if he followed through with his threatened lawsuit as of press time.
DeCastro and sovereign citizen fight over driver's licenses. In what best could be described as a meeting of alleged con men, Jose Chili DeCastro briefly hosted Cameron, power inherent in the people, Wilson, on his early Tuesday morning live stream, the second live stream in 24 hours for DeCastro. DeCastro's first live stream saw him rehash an old video in which he looked at internet personality Frank Sloup and a video of Sloup, a police sheriff and host of the popular Fridays with Frank video series. Sloup has apparently offended DeCastro by featuring Sloup's mother on his show, with DeCastro strongly objecting to the show's presentation of Sloup's mother, a non-police entity, deciding the fate of offenders Sloup allegedly pulled over as part of his job. DeCastro made multiple attacks on Sloup as he watched the video, then decided that Sloup's mother gave birth to a lizard person. Without missing a beat, DeCastro then declared that the moon landing in 1968, it happened in 1969, was a hoax because while he hasn't researched it, there was no way someone could land on the moon and broadcast from the moon when he can't always get a good signal when he live streams his audits. The less said about the first live stream, the better. DeCastro returned almost 12 hours later and inadvertently got himself into a live debate with Wilson, a self-described sovereign citizen who opposes the use of driver's license. DeCastro got himself into a shooting war recently with sovereign citizens when he featured a video of a female sovereign citizen having her car impounded for not having license or proof of registration. While DeCastro has called driver's licenses and the requirement to register cars a scam in the past, he admitted, and repeated that admittance on this live stream, that they were a necessary evil because both his indestructible trifold product and his 5A cop cards rely on the use of both to be effective. Appearing surprised that Wilson accepted his challenge to appear on panel, which happened a little after 1 a.m. Eastern Time, DeCastro questioned Wilson's claims to have beat every court case since he started challenging the need for driver's licenses 9 years ago. Wilson advocated that it was easy to get out of tickets and sometimes having a car impounded and staying in jail overnight was part of the process. DeCastro sternly objected to the idea of being arrested, stating that he would never be willingly arrested for a traffic infraction as it gave police the opportunity to do a cavity search and look up my butthole. DeCastro lingered a little too long on the cavity search subject, stating that he had been cavity searched over 20 times during the 4 months he was imprisoned in the Clark County Detention Center in Las Vegas last year. Continuing, DeCastro said he still had nightmares of groups of people looking up his butthole, and it was the cause of the brain fog he was experiencing until it cleared up at Thanksgiving, which DeCastro stated was 5 weeks ago. While Wilson was eventually able to get DeCastro to focus on topics other than his butthole, DeCastro eventually became triggered to have a proper discussion with as more and more Wilson supporters became vocal in DeCastro's side chat. Former DeCastro supporter You Have Rights Cops Have Duties enraged DeCastro further by saying that DeCastro cannot be a constitutional law scholar while advocating for slave licenses. The statement triggered DeCastro, who then started shouting and challenging random members of his chat when they made statements that he disliked. Wilson wisely excused himself and went to bed. DeCastro stayed another half an hour after Wilson left, disputing Wilson's views and making it clear that those who followed Wilson would go to jail if they did not have real licenses and registrations. Before signing out, DeCastro reminded his viewers that the only effective way to get out of a traffic stop was to use his 5A cop cards and trifold products, which are still available on his website.
Regan Benson goes on attack while helping friend move. The altruistic side of YouTuber and advocate for the homeless Regan Benson made a rare appearance Tuesday night, as she helped a formerly homeless woman move into a slot in one of Denver's micro-communities. Benson was all smiles as she announced that Jen, who has been featured in multiple videos with Benson, was leaving an abusive situation with a former lover in order to move into her new housing. That situation, which has been featured in previous videos, is that the man has a restraining order against the Jen. From time to time, he changes his mind and invites her to his property. Once she's at the property, he again changes his mind and reports her as violating the restraining order, resulting in her arrest. The last time the man had her arrested, in Englewood, Colorado, police destroyed her property after 30 days of incarceration. Her complaint about the destruction of her property and the subsequent lack of a response from Englewood police resulted in Benson filming Jen filing multiple follow-up complaints. Benson described Englewood police as corrupt and said newly appointed Englewood Police Chief David Jackson was on his final strike with her for not giving her the proper respect. She then claimed she would no longer report the Englewood Police to the Colorado State Attorney General, as she's deemed the Attorney General a political appointment who was in the hands of police and not worth her time. Instead, she was going to focus on her new partnership with Movement 5280, a controversial homeless outreach program who has opened a center in Englewood. Benson said that while she has abandoned her own homeless outreach programs, she will be helping Movement 5280 capitalize on Englewood's new budget for homeless outreach programs. Benson also explained that those who said that she shouldn't have an opinion about Englewood's operations as she was a resident of Denver were wrong. She said that it didn't matter that she didn't reside in Englewood, her taxes as a resident of Denver, or Rough and Ready, or wherever went to pay for services in Englewood. She stated that Englewood did not exist in a vacuum, and that she will be a participant in Englewood's future, like it or not. Benson is expected to make public comment at the Englewood City Council meeting on Monday, January 20th, 2025.
Delete Laws begs his fans for donations after losses. Jose Chili de Castro sat in his studio late Wednesday night into Thursday morning making a direct plea for donations. He said that he had 75 requests for free digital copies on Wednesday to one actual sale of a trifold on his site, and he begged his fans to hit the donate button and just give him $1 or $2 to make it all worthwhile. This was a new Chili de Castro. Well, newer than we've seen. The splotch on his nose now apparently permanent, baseball cap adorning his head after recently released photos showed how white and bald the top of his head had become. He looked frail as he angrily spoke about his beliefs that all police officers were devils and demons and should be dealt with. As he went into a rant about his poor internet connection and how he'd immediately be switching to Starlink the next morning because Elon Musk will provide the future. Some of his fans openly wondered how he'd afford the $600 buy-in for the dish, let alone the $100 plus a month service charges for the satellite service. He went into his usual spiel about how women were worthless in the military, emergency services, police force, and in the fire department, and demanded the immediate firing of the current Los Angeles fire chief, Kristen Crowley. His beef with Crowley was not for her alleged mismanagement of the recent fires that devastated the area, but, of course, because she was a woman and would be unable to carry a fat guy down a ladder. He has contended that women are inferior to men in anything to do with physicality, and De Castro's fans may have been reminded of his previous claims that he could fight any woman, or any 3 women in a group at age 50 without a problem. He also had claimed that when he was 35, there wasn't a man alive who could have defeated him in a fight, but will stifle the laughter at that claim as his 35 was 15 years past him. De Castro would briefly feature on panel a woman named Monica who would talk about how her dog was shot by a police officer in McAlester, Oklahoma, last year around the time of De Castro's jailing. This brought out De Castro's character JD, who promptly got hung up on when he attempted to prank call the McAlester Police Department at midnight. He'd eventually go into another rant about how all police officers should face a mandatory 10-year prison sentence if they were found to violate anyone's civil rights. He wanted 20 years but settled for 10 as it would apparently be easier to get through the legislature when he's a combined mayor/governor/president of whatever universe he was living in at the moment. His plea for donations came again as he explained that he gave out his 5A cop cards for free to any person at risk he saw in public, i.e. black person, and he didn't have a racist bone in his body. But he needed your money, through donations or sales, if he was going to survive his current financial crisis. So hit that like bud Don, hit that donation bud Don, and by God give until your wallet bleeds, y'all. De Castro would live stream again Thursday night, which we'll cover in a future article.
Craig Hendry dominates crowdsource mid-month take. The crowdsourcing market had a 4th day of goose eggs on Wednesday, as none of the funds we follow saw donations. However, the market rebounded on Thursday with donations to 2 campaigns as we enter the mid-month. Sean Paul, Long Island Audits, Reyes Generic support the fight against tyranny and corruption fund bought in a mysterious $97 in new donations on Thursday, while Lane Meyer's Give Send Go campaign brought in $20 for the day. The pair of funds are going in opposite directions, and the mid-month tallies are in, and they are part of a group of 7 funds that have activity for the month. Sadly, Myers is in last place for the month with negative $20 in donations. While his fund has been active throughout the month, this week $200 was subtracted from his total donations on the Give Send Go service, bringing his overall take for the month into negative figures. We're not certain if it's just a system error on the part of Give Send Go, or if it was a donation that was rescinded, but his adjusted tally for the month is less than what it began the month at. In the 6th position comes the Angry Vet Boost Scars mission for veterans and citizens with $45 donations. The 5th position goes to help Bees Watchdog Hold Police Accountable campaign, which took in $115 for the half month. 4th place goes to Liberty Troll Support the Fight for Our Constitutional Rights, with $155 in donations. 3rd place goes to Long Island Audits Support the Fight Against Tyranny and Corruption campaign, with $197 in donations. 2nd place goes to our own Ongoing Expenses campaign with $355 in new donations. Finally, 1st place went to Craig Hendry's Support Craig's Work campaign with $1,410 in donations for the half month. We will continue to monitor these campaigns and have updates with end-of-the-month tallies early next month.
Journalism is not free. Both ReallyCoolSite.org's daily newspaper and our daily newscasts are funded by your continuing donations and what we make from our YouTube AdSense revenue each month. If you'd like to contribute to help us keep the lights on, eating, keeping the cats fed, and writing new stories to feature on both the newspaper and newscast each day, we do have a GoFundMe set up at the address on screen right now. If you can't afford to contribute, please watch the advertisements on our videos, like, share, subscribe, and comment. You can help by doing next to nothing, and we thank you in advance for pitching in.
Irish demon behind November hack of delete laws. The headline shouldn't surprise anyone. We've been nice about it in the past, and we've called it demon hacking a YouTube personality to somehow protect everyone from the mess that's going to follow, but we knew we'd eventually write the story as he was so sloppy about it to begin with. In late November, Jose Chili de Castro's main Delete Laws YouTube channel was hacked, with the hackers running 3 attacks on a Friday night into a Saturday morning filled with men-on-men erotica. From what we've been told and what makes the most sense, the hackers used an old StreamYard backend to access de Castro's channel. That is why the erotica only appeared on his main channel and not the 2 other YouTube channels, his Twitter/X account and his Facebook account. The StreamYard access was so old that it was from a time where de Castro wasn't streaming from those accounts as of yet. The StreamYard access had apparently been floating around for some time. Christopher Direct D. Ruff had mentioned it on a live stream. There were rumors that Demon had been approached and rumors that Demon would conduct some sort of attack with it in the last week of November. Irish Demon live-streamed during these attacks. It was highly unusual of him to stream at the time, well into mid-morning in Ireland, and his mockery of de Castro prompted his followers, who weren't known to attend any of the previous thousands of de Castro live streams, to attend the erotica sessions to mock de Castro. Demon would then do a live stream celebrating all the times he had pulled pranks on Chili de Castro over the years. In the self-serving livestream, he would all but admit that he pulled the prank and essentially got credit for the prank without actually admitting said prank. Word from those in the know eventually leaked that Demon got cold feet about admitting the prank because he was afraid that there would be ramifications from YouTube from his actions. Loose lips sink ships, and in his quest for credit without admission, Demon may have sunk said ship. De Castro would briefly lose his main Delete Laws channel over the incident as YouTube terminated the channel. This was the apocalyptic scenario that de Castro had attempted to train his followers for, and a potential windfall as de Castro's finances were a mess as his attempts to rebrand and to leave for other platforms had all failed in the same month. Unfortunately for de Castro, in the aftermath of the hack and the channel loss, his fans didn't flock to support him on Twitter/X, his other YouTube channels or his new Teen DLZ channel. Some of the hardcores were unhappy, but no one was really out for blood and vengeance in the name of Chili de Castro. Our estimation was that DeCastro would have lost between $4,000 and $6,000 in monthly revenue due to YouTube confiscating his AdSense revenue for November. Industry tools aren't as accurate as we'd like, but between super chats and ad revenue, he was right in that range. DeCastro announced the layoffs of all of his editors, and now the harmless prank had real-life consequences as several people lost major portions of their income right before the holiday season. YouTube would eventually restore DeCastro's channel. According to DeCastro's public statement, they confirmed his statement that an outside party accessed his account and performed the attacks. He presumably had his AdSense revenue restored and has struggled greatly to get back on his feet since the hack. Demon's camp went silent. Eventually, the rumor began to circulate that DeCastro was so financially distraught that he faked the hack on his own as a publicity stunt after his move to paid Patreon failed, his move to Twitter/X failed, his own Teen DLZ failed, and his attempted rebrand to First Amendment Auditor failed, all in the weeks leading up to the attacks. It was a stretch at best, but as we noted, it was the current rumor in our reporting when we previously covered Irish Demon's ongoing controversies. We also noted that listeners of Demon's livestream about his previous pranks on DeCastro were 99.5% to the point of believing that Demon was responsible for the hack based on his own statements. The missing 5% was filled in on Thursday afternoon. We received the following message from YouTube personality Shiz on Team Skeptics Cool Shit Here forum. Shiz, yesterday at 5:14 p.m. At Jim Finch. Current rumor is the subject of the hack did it to himself in a desperate attempt to revive his channel. Carrot Demon admitted to the porn bomb in my VC in front of about plus or minus 20 people, and later sent me screenshots of him receiving the login and password. While this will eventually be read on the Auditing Insanity newscast by AI persona Yvette Peterson, who reads all of the DeCastro news, the very real human being writing the newscast, Jim Finch, has a long history with Shiz as both friends and adversaries. She doesn't condone us, we don't condone her. There's been a chosen separation between our two camps that's probably for the best. She has her major highway in the community, we have our one-lane backroad. Things are fine the way they are. Due to the animosity between the camps, communication wouldn't have normally happened, and now it has, in the most public of forums. The communication wouldn't have happened unless she had the screenshots of the event and proof that the events happened. Her statement backs up the accounts we've been told about, and again, fills in the missing 0.5% of the story. Irish Demon hacked Chili DeCastro. So now what? Irish Demon is in the process of losing his fandom. His own controversies are about to get major exposure as Shiz has an exposé planned featuring the people he directly hurt through his non-DeCastro-related actions. His camp, or a handful of accounts with Irish in their YouTube names, went on a brief counterattack yesterday, hitting our channel with negative comments on previous coverage of Demon. But it may be too late, the damage he inflicted to his own reputation is permanent to many former fans. There are also the legal ramifications of his actions. His prank was hardly a harmless thing. It resulted in the temporary layoffs of DeCastro's handful of editors and inflicted financial hardship on DeCastro's brand. It remains to be seen what will happen next, but we'll be here to report on events as they happen.
Floyd Wallace needs $100 after lawyer billing snafu. An excited Floyd Wallace started his Thursday night live stream with good news. A new plea deal was in front of him, and his pending court case in Norman, Oklahoma, will be delayed another month or two as they work out the details of the plea deal. Wallace excitedly explained that the deal was for a month in jail for the crime of obstructing a police officer. However, with time off for good behavior and jail overcrowding, he'd be out in 10 days. The YouTuber said it was the best deal he could get at the time and warned his fans that he probably wouldn't get another deal. He seemed excited as his fight was finally coming to an end and he could put everything behind him. Unfortunately, in the predictable twist of the night, Wallace had accidentally left on the opportunity for his lawyer to directly charge him from his bank account. The rest of the payment to his lawyer was charged without his knowledge. leaving the YouTuber with $110 to his name until next week. A new campaign started, this time for simply $100, so he could pay his Airbnb until the end of his stay in Rio de Janeiro. The new fundraiser had been predicted by Wallace's fans, the same ones who now call him Scammer Floyd Wallace, and was met with a resounding no from his regulars. It was brought up in the side chat of his live stream that Wallace had yet to pay fines that were due in New Mexico that had resulted in a warrant for his arrest. A simple search had also shown that Wallace had yet to pay off his probation fees, which are now overdue. Wallace blamed his audience for his lack of new donations, claiming that his audience was disrespecting him. He said that because of the disrespect, he would be featuring rehashed anti-police videos on his channel taken from his other two anti-police channels in an effort to drum up views and YouTube revenue. In other words, it was another in an endless string of live streams featuring of scammer Floyd Wallace freakout, which he would eventually rage quit and remove from his channel. A quick check of the Wayback Machine, as cataloged in our flashback videos, and Floyd Wallace was miserable in Brazil last year around this time. A live stream from early in the month saw him demanding donations so he could go to Colombia, where the action was. He'd make it back to Colombia eventually in 2024, finding sex for produce, a woman named The Stud, and a number of blowouts before eventually making it back to the United States, where he'd be miserable and longing to go back overseas. How things have stayed the same, as nothing changes in Scammer Floyd's world. Frauditor's audience scares off pay to play date. Floyd Wallace started his latest live stream in a situation he thought every person in his audience would envy as he was in the bathroom of a cheap motel putting on his clothes after having sex with a local girl in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, on Friday afternoon. The woman, a short dark-haired and muscular girl, was apparently a server at a restaurant he met and had intended for her to be his new co-host on live streams. This decision was due to the impressive response he had from both his fans and other women as he walked the streets of Brazil with another girl earlier in the week. When Wallace was paired with a woman, he apparently is more attractive to other women as he was able to get 5 phone numbers of other women in that live stream, though few of them panned out into sexual conquests. This woman, who Floyd admitted on camera to having safe sex with on the camera, immediately drew the ire of his fans, who said she looked 40. She was 30 years old, and she didn't speak English. Wallace, using his alias of Terry Wilson, sat with the woman on the bed of his hotel, and the pair cuddled in the afterglow of whatever happened between the two, with the woman appearing happy and safe in his arms. This wouldn't last. For whatever reason, Wallace held up his side chat to let the woman read the comments of the video. Initially, only letting her see the super chats that he'd answer from those assembled in the room. Quickly, his fans figured out that while she couldn't read English, she could read Spanish and Portuguese, while Wallace could not. So, of course, they began to super chat in those languages, sending her messages that Floyd couldn't understand, but happily put up for all to see anyway. Through the messages, his fans told the woman that his real name was Floyd and not Terry, that no one liked him because he begs for money, and that he was a convicted felon. Wallace, on cue, began to berate his viewers for the lack of donations during the chat, exclaiming that he had smashed the girl and let his viewers talk to her as content. The woman sat a little further away from Wallace and began to look at her phone. Wallace's side chat then went further, asking the woman if he paid her for sex and to put up 3 fingers if it was true. She looked at Wallace and put 3 fingers up to the camera. Now clearly uncomfortable, there was a long black screen as Wallace either lost connection, his Wi-Fi was spotty through the live stream and cut out a number of times, or purposely put the phone down so his fans couldn't see what was going on. When the video returned, the woman was getting ready to leave, and Wallace explained that he had to order the woman an Uber as she was going home instead of going out with him. No more super chats were read to her as she was making a quick exit. Wallace walked her out to the motorcycle Uber, explaining that he films all of his dates leaving for his own protection. He figured that would be proof that nothing happened to the woman after she left his presence, so he couldn't be arrested if something happened to her. After she left, Wallace was still in the afterglow of his fantastic date, still clueless to what his own chat did to him, but not distracted enough not to beg for money. He was fundraising for $85 to take the bus to see a friend in Salvador, Brazil. He explained that it would take 2 days to get there by bus, the cheapest mode of transportation in the country, but the 2 days on the bus would free him from needing an Airbnb. He also said he'd fast on the bus, as money was tight, and he did not trust having to go to the bathroom on the bus. Wallace still seemed to be determined that the woman will be his co-host, though. From what the woman was told by Wallace's side chat about his identity and his lies, this seems highly unlikely. The YouTuber still needed $77 for his trip to Salvador at the end of his live stream.